Hey there, Book Nest monsters. I'm here today for something a little bit more light-hearted and quick and easy. It'll be my first ever book haul. I'm sure you're all wondering why I gathered you here today. Well, the truth is, I have some buttons for you to click. So even though I'm supposed to be on a fairly tight budget at the moment, I seem to have come out of this week with a lot of books. I'm just looking at the pile here and it's quite sizable. So I figured that seeing as the money's already spent and I can't afford to eat now because I've spent too much money on books, I might as well at least make the most of it and share them with you. So this book haul actually comes from two different outings, and I'll talk about the first one first. Jeez, wow, what a surprise. I'm not doing very good at this today. Anyway, the first outing and first group of books that I bought was, anyone who follows me on Twitter might have seen that I came across a charity used book sale at the hospital. I work near the hospital, so I actually go through the hospital on the way to work, and I was on my way into work in the morning and saw that they were having a used book sale where all books were under 50 cents. Australian cents as well, and I kind of lost my mind just a little bit, and so I went upstairs and got all of my coffee change for the week and went down and spent it on books instead. So let's have a look at what I got. Now, in no particular order, apparently, the first book that I got was Daughter of Fortune by Isabella. This is a book that I think my mum told me that I should read. Anyway, Isabella is obviously a very, very well-known Latin American author. She and Gabriel Garcia Marquez are the two sort of most common names of South American authors, and this is a book that my mum recommended to me, so I'm very excited to read it. I need to be not talking so much about the books if this is going to be a quick book haul, which was the plan. So clearly I'm just not good at not talking. I'm really not good at being quick and concise about things. Anyway, this is book number 2, the one that I'm waving while I'm talking, and that is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. I don't know how to say her name very well. This one is one that I think most people will probably at least have heard of. Very, very famous fantasy series that I actually was given as a child but never got around to reading because I was very stubborn. I was a very weird kid. I was like, no, I don't want to. Someone told me to read it and I don't want to read things that people tell me to read. I only want to read things that I want to read. So then I found this and bought it because I figured maybe I actually should read it rather than being a stubborn swear word. Book number 3 on my pile, again in no specific order, is Elias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Anyway, so this book is about a real Canadian murderess. As far as I can tell, it's a fictional account of a woman who murdered some people in Canadian history. So it's kind of cool. Book number 3 on the pile is Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I really, really loved The Great Gatsby. And someone I know on BookTube was talking about Tender is the Night not that long ago, so when I spotted this I kind of went, ooh, and bought it. I don't actually know anything about it except that I'm guessing it's classic 1920s American fiction writing, so we'll see. And book number whatever is next on the pile is The Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens. I started reading this a few years ago because I borrowed it from the library, but it's quite a long read, as most Charles Dickens books are, and so I had to return it to the library before I actually finished it, and then I was too lazy to get it back out again later, and I never got around to finishing it. So now I bought it and I have all the time in the world to read it, I guess. Final book from the hospital charity store thing, I just mental blanked on the word there, is an Agatha Christie novel called Poston of Fate, which I have never heard of before either. But I really like Agatha Christie. I've read a few of her books now, although strangely enough I haven't read The Murder on the Orient Express, even though that's like one of her better known ones, but I'll get around to it soon. Anyway, so I spotted it and I know that Agatha Christie is a guaranteed good read, so I figured I might as well buy it to add to my collection. So these are all the books from my first book haul, and there's 6 of them and they cost me $2.50, so I was pretty happy with that. So yesterday I went and filmed my first bookshop tour for the Touring Melbourne Through Bookshop series, which will be posted up later this week. But I also, obviously, I walked into the bookshop and I couldn't not buy books, basically. I managed to hold myself back and only buy 2 books at least, but I couldn't walk out of there without having bought anything. So I have finally bought an actual copy of The Hobbit, which, even though I have read it, and obviously have read all of the Lord of the Rings books, I don't own any of them, which is actually something that I talked about in my first ever video. In my BookTube newbie tag, I talked about the fact that it was only when I was filming that video that I realised I didn't own them, even though they're books that absolutely shaped my childhood and my growth to adult life. So I finally bought a copy of The Hobbit, which might be good timing for the Read, React, Repeat book club, but also probably won't be, because whatever book I choose is basically just doomed to lose by 1% of a vote, apparently. Voter fraud, I tell you. And then the last book that I bought is this absolutely beautiful collector's edition copy of the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale, which I haven't actually read the fairy tale, but obviously I really loved the Disney movie because I felt like I related a lot to Belle as a, you know, young book nerd. Anyway, so I saw this and absolutely fell in love with it. You guys, you have no idea how beautiful this book is. It was a bit more expensive than my budget should really have allowed, but I excused myself and allowed myself to buy it because the movie is coming out this month. So I figured, what better timing than to be reading this book in the lead up to the release of the new movie. It is so beautiful though. It is done with these beautiful vintage style illustrations and these cute little sort of interactive illustrated elements as well. This thing spins around. There's a pop-out map. They call this a map for some reason, but not really a map. Ugh, I just love it. So that's the final book on my book haul, and possibly my favourite book, and probably my favourite book for all time now, because it's so pretty! And that's it! That was my very short, impromptu, not very informative book haul of all the pretty new books that I own. I wonder if I can make a book rainbow. Ow! I can't hold them all. Look! Book rainbow! That one doesn't fit. That one would be next, I guess, because that's kind of green. Oh god! I'm sure you're all wondering why I gathered you here today. Well, the truth is, I have some buttons for you to click.